With the GRC, most of the tools that we use are aimed at organizing our space. And they're doing a pretty good job at that. Don't get me wrong. Even getting organized is a big deal. Moving from Excel and Word documents into a GRC tool is a huge deal, right? But we need more than just cataloging. It is becoming so complex that even if we catalog everything, there is no one in the company who knows everything. And we don't expect them to do that. However, when you start looking at the field, you have to look at everything. There is no way around it. And trying to make sense of all the policies that you have, all the controls that you have, all the standard operating procedures that you have, and how they all fit together. On one hand is, again, the compliance aspect of it. Okay, are you compliant with that new regulation or this new standard that came out? That's one thing. But the other one is, are you optimized? Because you cannot just keep adding more people to the fray and adding more tools to the fray. At some point, you have to think about, okay, how do you increase the growth exponentially faster than the company is growing? So that's where the AI comes in with its ability to look at much more data than a single human can do and make sense out of that. So think of an assistant that knows everything about your environment and you can ask questions. That would be amazing. Another challenge could be once you start expanding beyond the baseline of, you mentioned SOC 2 and ISO 27001, once you start adding more frameworks, I'm not saying that they don't have it. A lot of them, they actually have a slew of frameworks as part of the solution. But once you start doing that and you start talking about unified control framework, then you start asking yourself, is this the optimal way of looking at it? And then when we start talking about the broader scope of compliance that I mentioned earlier, that becomes even more complicated. And those tools do not give you that, right? So again, really, really good first step. But if you start thinking about broader compliance, broader security, that's not enough. Where AI comes in. That is where AI comes in, because that complexity and that broader scope of data and processes that you need to look at, this is a perfect use case for the AI.
Explain that a little bit more to me.
So let's say you're introducing a new framework and it has a lot of new controls, and you have to modify some of the policies. Sometimes you may even need to modify the architecture of the product that you have, or the environment that you have. So mapping the new requirements against the existing posture is usually a project that is a kind of a serious effort project. We're talking about quarters, not months, but quarters project. And you need to bring in an expert that first understands your existing environment and understands the new requirements. And they start mapping. Now, of course, there are tools that you can use, like UCF is a very common, the Unified Control Framework is a very, very, very common tool that all of us have been using. It does mapping between, several thousand frameworks. But again, this is mapping at the standard level, at the control level. It is much harder when you have your customized environment. And by the way, if you're a large enterprise with multiple regions, multiple regulations, multiple concerns that are coming from what you're doing, most likely your control set and your policy set is heavily customized. So the tool that the help that you're going to get from the UCF is just the beginning. You need to kind of factor this customization. And that's, again, the standard, the traditional approach is you bring consultants, you educate them on your environment, or hopefully, if you're lucky, you already have consultants that understand your environment. I've been happy in my previous roles to have that. So you bring those consultants, they spend several quarters, kind of do the mapping, creating the project plan for you, and then off you go. I'm not saying that AI can replace that. But let's say you take and I'm going to use a generic AI tool like Notebook LM. You bring up your documents, your policies, your control sets, the results of your testing, your architectural documents, data flow diagrams, kind of create this context, and then add the new regulation, and then with the prompting, you can get a pretty good answer. And actually, you should try that. You should try using GPT or Notebook LM to do this, you can get pretty close to what you'd get from a consultant. That doesn't negate the need from a consultant, but it's going to shrink your deployment time significantly, because you still need a human. As we all know, there's some things that we need to be concerned about interacting directly with the AI. You still need a human to verify those things, but you shorten the period, and you're looking at everything, because we're humans, we make mistakes, we miss stuff. I'm going to bring a different topic, which is kind of you can use generic AI, but you can also use a specified AI assistant, like a GRC AI assistant, and they're more tailored to that. And I guess that's probably a topic of a different conversation that we can have. But you can use the AI to do these pre-audit checks, for example, to scan the environment, say, okay, this is my environment, that's the context I established, scan it and let me know how it is. Again, it doesn't replace the auditor, but it gets you a long way getting ready for the auditor, or like the heaven for us is continuous control monitoring and continuous compliance and agile compliance, all those kind of things that we talk about. So it's much easier to run the AI consistently on your environment and discover issues rather than doing these snapshot audits that we're used to.